Let me say, we are extremely pleased to have the Bowen brothers, one of the winners of the Kentucky Fried Chicken Gospel Concert Contest. And they are from South Atlanta, and we're very, very pleased to have them with us, joining in this announcement of the second annual celebration of the Martin Luther King Jr. birthday holiday. What I think we're trying to do is see to it that the ideas and the concepts that Martin Luther King practiced, the idea of resolving problems without violence, becomes institutionalized as a part of America's life and the life of the world through the Martin Luther King birthday holiday. We're very, very pleased that the Bowen brothers would join with us, that Kentucky Fried Chicken would join with us, and that this distinguished group of disc jockeys from our community will join with us in making this possible. We're also very pleased to have Mr. James Ballard of Word Records as one of the co-sponsors of this effort, and Mr. Dick Campbell, the district director of Kentucky Fried Chicken. But basically, we have a Martin Luther King Jr. holiday because Mrs. Coretta Scott King has made it her life's work to keep the ideals and the vision of a society that can solve its problems without destroying people or property alive through the work of the Martin Luther King Center for Social Change and through the celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday as a national holiday. We're here today to announce a concert, a gospel concert, on January the 18th at the Civic Center, featuring the Bowen brothers and a cross-section of gospel groups from the entire region, and also to welcome you and announce the second annual march in celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday as a holiday. I don't know whether I ought to spell this out or whether it's visible enough, but I think it's beautiful that this celebration is visibly here, not seen as a black or white celebration, but as seen as a celebration of the ideals and principles that Martin Luther King strove to achieve in our society. And when we think of the kinds of things that are going on in some of the other areas of our country, for us to be able to come together to share this vision, which is essentially a religious vision, and to celebrate that through a gospel concert and through this march, and to invite our whole city and region to join in this occasion, we understand what we're trying to work toward in the Martin Luther King birthday celebration. I will happen to be in Southern Africa, because there's no place where the ideals or ideas of nonviolence is more on trial. And there'll be representatives from some 20 African nations in Botswana, the nation immediately north of South Africa. And essentially what we're trying to do is seek to find ways to solve the problem of apartheid in South Africa and the problems of some of the class and economic differences between the haves and the have-nots in the world and in Africa, and to solve those problems without violence. And so we'll be celebrating the Martin Luther King birthday celebration not only in here and in Africa, but all around the world. Many of the nations of Europe, India, China, Japan, other places in Asia. And what we are seeing here is the center of a worldwide celebration of the work of Martin Luther King and the vision of Martin Luther King of a world of peace and prosperity and brotherhood. I'd like to bring forth the young lady who keeps that dream alive and who continues to develop the work of the Martin Luther King Center for Nonviolent Social Change, Mrs. Coretta Scott King, the president of the center.
Thank you, Mayor Young, and to Mr. Ballard, Wood Record Company and to Dick Campbell of Kentucky Fried Chicken and Associates. Let me say what a privilege it is to be here today and to join in this press conference to talk about an event and a series of events that are going to be taking place within the next week or so. We in the King Center are very pleased with the way plans are progressing for the second national holiday, and we think that this year will have a meaning of its own. I think we get into a very difficult position, maybe an impossible one, when we try to compare celebration after celebration, the first with the second, and so on. I said this about the March on Washington 20th anniversary when media asked what was going to happen and whether this celebration would be as successful as the first one in 1963. And I said it will have its own uniqueness and a life of its own, and it did. So I think this celebration will also do that. We can't tell you exactly how, but we know that it will happen because this is the way it always is. When we come to commemorate the life of a person who lived so well and who is remembered, but not only remembered, but people are concerned enough so that they mobilize and organize their communities in activities that last for many days. And we here in Atlanta have planned a program that starts around the 14th and goes to the 19th, which is the official day this year, the third Monday. A highlight of that celebration will be the gospel concert, which will take place on the 18th of January at the Civic Center. I am pleased to give you the synoptic overview of the King Week activities. Let me start by saying next Monday we'll have a press conference, and that will be at the King Center. The final plans and specifics will be included in that press conference, including the names of the participants. We have some names to release to you today, but we will have a complete roster by next Monday, which is the 12th. Today I will give a cursory look at our King Week program, and I know you will see how delighted and enthusiastic we are about this upcoming event. Secretary of State George Shultz will be with us in Atlanta and will be participating in our traditional ecumenical service. Secretary William Bennett will be here on the 15th and will give a major address on education for the disadvantaged. The Secretary of Education has been very concerned with the problems that we face in this country in the education arena, and has felt that the teaching of Martin Luther King Jr. in the schools is very important. So he wants to meet here in Atlanta to make a major statement with educators, two educators, principals and superintendents and administrators of the school systems to talk about establishing a Martin Luther King curriculum in the school systems. On the 19th, what some are calling a new American tradition will occur when the historic Liberty Bell in Philadelphia will be rung, signaling the ringing of bells in all 50 states of the nation, a unique tribute to Martin. There we will have Secretary Pierce, who will be on hand to participate in that ceremony. And then when the bells are rung in Philadelphia, then they will be rung in all the 50 states. This will take place at 12:30 on the 19th. Kenny Rogers and Stevie Wonder will host a nationwide radio industry tribute that will include this symbolic and moving event. Our theme this year is Living the Dream, Let Freedom Ring. And it will be carried out not only in programs, but in the National Parade in March, which will conclude the holiday. As you recall, in 1963, when Martin gave his I Have a Dream speech, he talked about his dream for America. And after he talked about his dream in several different contexts, then he said, so let freedom ring. And he said, let it ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let it ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Appalachia. And he went on from every hill and molehill in Mississippi, from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let it ring from every mountainside, and so on. So we are sort of taking this part of that speech and using it as our theme to motivate and involve people as they remember and understand the meaning, the real meaning of freedom. And a National College and University student conference will assemble young people in an interracial coalition as a special freedom train will bring these students from all over America to Atlanta. We are very excited about that because our students have not been as active in recent years as they were in an earlier period of our history. And we think this will be a time of reactivating the students to become involved in their communities, on their college campuses, and in understanding that they are a force in helping to impact public policy and to change the conditions of our society. And certainly young people today need that very much because there have been perhaps a generation or so now that do not remember or do not know very much about the freedom struggle of the 50s and 60s. And this is very important, to come here to Atlanta and come to the roots of what took place over that period of time. The symbols and all are here, the home of SCLC, the King Center, which is continuing the legacy, institutionalizing it. And of course, the concentration, there will be a mini conference which will be concentrating on nonviolence, Kingian nonviolence, and its application to many of our problems today, social, political, and economic. The King Center's theme, in addition to the national theme, is ending the violence of poverty, world hunger, apartheid, and terrorism through creative nonviolent action. We will have our traditional community service awards, labor management, government social responsibility, breakfast awards, and seminar. And we will pay tribute to persons in those disciplines of government, management, and labor for their roles in social responsibility. And this will be held Friday morning, the 16th. One of the most special events is a 1-hour program that will be carried on PBS, sponsored by AT&T, and it's called In Remembrance of Martin. This 1-hour documentary on the life and legacy of Martin, and on the first birthday holiday observed 1 year ago, it will carry some of the persons who were here participating and statements by them, combined with the music that was performed here, and I think you will find that it is a very moving and fitting tribute to not only to Martin Luther King Jr., but to the first federal holiday itself. Veteran civil rights movement leaders will be here from across the country to participate in our All People's Freedom Gala, which is going to be an annual occasion. And last year, some of the people who were involved said it was the most meaningful experience of the whole celebration because it was like a reunion. People came together and they gave short statements about what they remembered and with singing, and it was very moving. Reverend Ralph David Abernathy, former head of SCLC, will serve as the Grand Marshal of the March and Parade. Reverend Benjamin Hooks, Executive Director of the NAACP, will be a Deputy Grand Marshal. And noted film producer David Wolper, who brought Roots to TV and the Statue of Liberty Gala to the world, will also be a Deputy Marshal. And of course, astronaut Lieutenant Colonel Gideon Bluford, who was here a few years ago, and Dick Gregory will also be with us. On the 17th, our yearly Salute to Greatness dinner will be here at the Marriott Hotel, and it will honor Peter Stroh and Earl Graves, Earl Graves of Black Enterprise magazine. I think if you know some of these people, you've already realized that many of the participants, as we call their names, we do have an interracial as well as interfaith group. As the mayor had said earlier, this is a celebration that people of this country participate in, and it's beautiful to see it actually happening because we have stressed this all along, that this holiday belongs to all people, and we want all people to be a part of it. And this is being demonstrated, I think, not only here in Atlanta, but in other places throughout the country as we talk with people who are planning and developing their programs. On the 18th, we will proudly host a national symposium on poverty and world hunger. And this time, the focus is going to be on the southern region of Africa, particularly discussing the problems of the frontline states, and we will have someone directly from that region to do that, whose name we will mention later. But it's very important for us to understand that when we deal with the problem of hunger, that we have to also deal with problems that the developing countries have in the region of southern Africa, directly, closely located to South Africa, and the impact that sanctions have had in producing counter-sanctions among those nations. And this is a very important thing. And the way Americans can help is by being more informed about the problem, and then making sure that we communicate with our representatives in Congress so that we can change the policies in such a way that we can help to meet those needs here in this country of those people who are not able at this point yet to solve their problems of poverty and hunger without some outside assistance. Our interfaith service will also be held on Sunday the 18th, and that is a time when black and white and other ethnic groups of various religious faiths come together in a service of dedication, and it is always an important event. Our speaker will be the Reverend Howard Creasy, an Atlanta pastor who was involved in the civil rights movement and a very fine speaker. People will be coming from all over the country, and we expect not only the civil and human rights people as we had in the past, but we have key figures in labor and the business community, and the education community, and the entertainment and sports communities. And it is very important that we have this kind of combination, because we've tried to plan activities for all people who are concerned about freedom and justice and peace. I think that we will have one of the outstanding celebrations that have been taken place, and it will be larger, but it will be more decentralized, I think. We have an extraordinary array of people who will be participating on Sunday evening in the gospel extravaganza gala that we've spoken about earlier. And this is going to be a wonderful event. Outstanding gospel singers like Tremaine Hawkins and Shirley Caesar, and the Richard Smallwood Singers, and the North Birmingham Community Male Chorus, and Wilson Wayne Mass Unity Choir, and others, and this very fine group we have here this morning. And I know that all of you will come out, and the very nice thing about it is that you don't have to pay to get in. And this is I think, a contribution that we can thank our sponsors for. The sponsors who are here with us today, the Word, A&M Records, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, and of course the March Committee and the Cultural Affairs Committee of the King Center. The King Center itself, of course, is a sponsor, and we are proud to be a part of this occasion because Dr. King himself was a great lover of gospel music. He loved to hear Mahalia Jackson sing. She was his favorite singer, as a matter of fact, and she was with him on many of his crusades. Of course, I think all of us would agree that Mahalia was one of the greatest. And so it's very much in keeping with the overall celebration and the concept to have a gospel program of this magnitude and with persons of this renown each year, I think. I hope this will be an ongoing event, and we are very proud to be a part of it. The city of Atlanta, of course, with the mayor, also is sponsoring it. They have been most helpful to us, and Mr. Mayor, we thank you as well for your support of this gospel concert. And finally, the parade in March, as I have said, will take place, and we have already more than 15 bands and colorful floats. Scores of organizations will proceed down Peachtree Street to Woodruff Park onto Auburn Avenue and the King Center itself. The parade in March will be only an hour and a half this time, and of course that means it will be a very swift moving parade and march. And of course, we will begin at the receiving stand and invite thousands of marchers from all over the nation to join us in this very symbolic march after the parade is passed to the crypt. It will be a very moving tribute, as it was last year, and as it did last year, the ranks swelled as we moved down Peachtree onto Auburn. And there will be people in this march of of every belief and all colors and interests. Again, thank all of you, and particularly our guests who are here today, and I think, Mayor, you would want to come back and introduce them.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. King. Let me ask Mr. James Bullitt if he will come forward and say a brief word. He's rushing to the airport, but we did want to thank Word Records for their involvement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Coretta King Scott, to the other sponsors of this gospel concert that's going to take place on the 18th. We consider this quite an honor and a privilege to be a part of this great celebration, Dr. Martin Luther King. The Richard Smallwood Singers, Shirley Caesar, and the Caesar Singers, Tremaine Hawkins and her group, Word Records and A&M with George Scott, our regional rep in this area. We are proud to be a part of this event, and we hope this will be the beginning of many that will follow. And this time next year, we will already be involved, and we do plan, and we will point ourselves as a part of those who are going to participate next year in a great gospel concert. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Dick Campbell, the District Director of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Thank you very much.
Kentucky Fried Chicken is indeed pleased and honored to be associated with this fine organization, the City of Atlanta, Martin Luther King Center, and Word Music to co-sponsor the gospel concert during Martin Luther King Week activities. The concert on January the 18th will feature some of the best-known professional groups in gospel music, and I think it's worth repeating the fact that Shirley Caesar, Tremaine Hawkins, and the Richard Smallwood Singers, as well as choirs from Birmingham and North Carolina will be here. But also, this concert will feature some of Atlanta's own fine talent, church-sponsored gospel ensembles, Praise from Emmanuel Temple, and the Bowen Brothers from North DeKalb Christian Church. They are the winner and runner-up in the ensemble category of the first Kentucky Fried Chicken gospel music competition held in Atlanta last October. The competition is part of the Kentucky Fried Chicken National Gospel Music Series, which features competitions in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Detroit, and also major festivals in Chicago and Louisville, Kentucky. During the music competition this past year, we were impressed and indeed overwhelmed by the wonderful gospel talent here in Atlanta. The preliminaries held in the 3 local churches and the finals at the Symphony Hall were proof that Atlanta has some of the finest gospel talent in the country.
Amen.
And we're glad to continue this association with such an important art form by co-sponsoring the gospel concert during Martin Luther King Week activities. Kentucky Fried Chicken is also proud and again privileged to be commemorating Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday by offering a poster free with any purchase beginning on January the 18th in our stores in the Atlanta area. And Mayor Young, I'd like to present to you at this time this poster.
That's beautiful. That's very good. Thank you very much. And these are free in Kentucky Fried Chicken stores?
That's correct.
Amen again.
Thank you. And I'm especially proud to present this check for $2,500 to Mrs. King to benefit the Cultural Affairs program at the Martin Luther King Center. This money represents the proceeds after concert-related expenses from the finals at the Symphony Hall held last October here in Atlanta. We're very proud and glad to announce that we will continue our association with gospel music with another competition this year. And I look forward to enjoying and promoting the fine gospel talent again here in the city of Atlanta. Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Mr. Campbell, for this very generous check. And this is not the first time that Kentucky Fried Chicken has supported the cultural affairs programs at the King Center. As many of you know, we have, during the summer, a King Fest, and that takes money and sponsorship, and they have been involved there with Yolanda King and presenting support for that and other ways they have helped the King Center. And we are very, very grateful for this, and I can assure you it will be well used, and we appreciate your participation with this because you already have a track record in presenting concerts of this kind and magnitude, and certainly I know if you continue to do this and to develop it, it is going to be one of those very worthwhile contributions. It's already been a contribution, but it's going to be even a greater contribution, I think, to bringing people together and strengthening the bonds and the relationships and the friendships and creating what I think we often like to talk about, the beloved community which Martin Luther King Jr. I think dreamed about, and that he talked about it, and I think it is the essence of his dream. People need to feel good about each other, and when they come together and they communicate through music, the art form that says much more than the words themselves. And this is great. Thank you so much. And all of those fine people behind me who are a part of it.
Let me just call the roll of those who are behind us. First of all, Air Atlanta, that's flying our talent in, and then radio stations WTJH, WIGO, WAOK, WYZE, WCLK, and WBUS. And we're very grateful to all of you for the music you play all the time, and particularly your promotion and sponsorship of this event that will bring people out for our march and for our gospel concert. I thank you very much, and now I think we close with another selection by the Boeing Brothers, and let's give them a big hand for being with us today.
Sing together. And we are honored to be a part. This last song is called
because they've been behind us all year, and it's a change for Atlanta. I think it's a step in stone, how the Hawks going to be in the next couple of years. I know it was a disappointing end of the season, certainly, for everybody, but you've had a little chance now to get the camera right quick. Franchise. To be proud of. To see the turnout that's here at Woodruff Park right now, it's going to be gratifying too. Yeah, it is. It's nice. Like I said, the fans play a great part in any winning organization. See here at Woodruff Park today, and we'll be ready to go here in just a minute. We'll also be hearing Tom Gross and the Varsity with the Hawks theme song. It's been so popular out here.
Thank you very much for all of you. Let me say, Bullseye! It's so great to have you with us. This is our salute to you. It's not your salute to the Hawks. A lot of people wondered a few years ago, would Atlanta ever be a great professional basketball town? Well, you've answered that. Thanks to the Hawks' 57 wins, Atlanta drew about 14,000 fans a game, and it's going to become not one of, but maybe the best franchise in all of the NBA, thanks to you. So, we salute you. One more thing. Not to ignore the playoff loss, but it's kind of a building step of this great, young, exciting team. And if you think it was good this year, just wait till next year and the years afterwards, because this group is talented and young and hungry and desirous to bring a championship to Atlanta. And mark my words, soon, next year or so, they're going to be a championship banner at the Omni, and that will really be exciting. Well, anyway, we thank you for your support. I can't take a step in the ballpark without someone either yelling bullseye or Dominique Magnifique or something like that. So you're really you don't know how special you are. You don't know how you turn these players on with your support and enthusiasm and applause. And right now, I'd like you to give some of your applause to the leading citizen of Atlanta who has come here to honor the Hawks. Let me introduce the mayor of Atlanta, Mr. Andrew Young.
Thank you very much. I don't know anything that I've done that's been any more exciting and any more intensive over as long a period of time as the action-packed minutes and hours that we've spent watching the Atlanta Hawks. They are no doubt some of the greatest athletes in the world. Not only can they run and pass a ball, but they can fly. And not only can they fly, but as they are flying, they combine the best skills of the gymnast, of the ballet dancer, and in those last games, the football players. And in terms of the consummate athlete, I think we can say we've got the world's best right here in Atlanta, our Atlanta Hawks. And so on behalf of all of the fans, not only of the city of Atlanta, but people who came from North Florida, North Carolina, Alabama, South Carolina, and on any given night, we would have people from hundreds of miles around that drove in here to see our Atlanta Hawks. And we're grateful to the Hawks, to Channel 17, Ted Turner, for making us, once again, a winning city. And I'd like to present to Coach Fratello and Tree Rollins, the captain of the Hawks, just certificates of merit for outstanding contributions to the growth, vitality, and spirit of our city. These are the symbols of Atlanta rising from the ashes, flying on high as a great city, and we'd like each of our Atlanta Hawks to have one. And thank you very much for a great season, Coach, and the team.
Thank you, Mayor Young. And I know he needs to run on because of his busy schedule. On behalf of the team, we would just like to present the mayor with two small tokens of our appreciation. He has not only been a fan and a supporter of ours during the good times, but during the tough times, he was a gentleman who would call me, just tell me to keep my head up, hang in there, and we're going to turn this thing around, and we will be a great basketball franchise. And that was from day one. And we really appreciate it when you're down and things aren't going well. When people stick with you during the tough times, it's really nice to still be together during the best times. So from the team to the mayor, one of our Central Division Championship t-shirts, and a Dominique autographed basketball from everyone. Thank you. Before we move on, I'd just like to say on behalf of the team, the season was a great season. I know everyone was disappointed that maybe we weren't still playing right now, but you cannot take away from what they accomplished during the regular 82-game schedule. They won the most games ever at home, 35 wins. They set a franchise record of 57 wins, the most ever in the history of the Hawks. And when you keep in mind that there were only 2 teams in the NBA that finished with a better overall record, one was the Los Angeles Lakers and one the Boston Celtics, that's not bad company to be in. As they said in their video, nothing can stop us, and let's hope this is just the beginning of it and we're going on from there. So our deepest thanks to everyone, and we really appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming out this morning. My name is Walter Huntley, and I'm the president of the Atlanta Economic Development Corporation. And what I'd like to do, we've got a very brief agenda, and I'd like to move through it very quickly. And what I'm going to do is first just give you a brief overview of how we all got here today, and then I'll introduce the mayor, and then I'll introduce Hattie Harlow, who will just give you an overview of the Venture Capital Network. This all started, I guess, about 1.5 years ago. The Atlanta Economic Development Corporation, as you may or may not know, is a public-private corporation. We've been in existence for about 10 years. And our major mission or objective is to create jobs and promote capital investment within the city of Atlanta and to promote small business development. And the Venture Capital Network was a means to do this particular thing. I guess 1.5 years ago, we began to look at, Mayor Young, who is the chairman of our board, said we need to look at ways where we can enhance small business development within the city of Atlanta. And he wanted us to be aggressive and also very creative. And we feel that the Venture Capital Network is historic because it will enable us to provide a service that is not being provided in the state of Georgia. The VCN of New Hampshire started out in 1984, and that was a program that's been very successful. Since that time, other programs have been in place in Mississippi, North Carolina, New Jersey recently started one. And we talked about it at our board meetings, and as things progressed, we really felt that this would be an ideal program to bring to Atlanta and to Georgia. it kind of fills a niche and puts entrepreneurs together with investors in that range of $25,000 to $750,000. It's kind of a gap where the institutional lenders or banking community is not really filling that gap completely. So we had an advisory committee that we formed, and that, I must say, has been just tremendous in terms of enabling us to come to where we are today. And later on, I will introduce everybody that has served on our advisory committee. We couldn't have done it without them. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Mayor Young, Chairman, and Mayor of the City of Atlanta.
Thank you very much, Walt. When you think about the rapid economic growth in various regions of our country, whether it's the Silicon Valley in California or Route 128 in Massachusetts outside of Boston, the one ingredient that you find wherever there is rapid growth of young entrepreneurs is, as always, a venture capital network. That coming out of our universities, they're brilliant ideas coming up in our city's streets virtually. They're people who know the needs of the community and who are attempting to respond to those needs. The way they get translated into being successful businesses is somebody taking enough of an interest in them to study their businesses with them, understand what they're trying to do, and be willing to work with them to invest a certain amount of capital. Now, that used to be considered high-risk capital. It's high risk only in the sense that it's not an automatic transaction, such as the kind that most banks do. It's essentially starting something new. Well, with the Georgia Tech Technology Development Center, with the business school at University of Georgia State, with the business college there at Atlanta University, we're turning out well-trained scientists, potential entrepreneurs, and if you look through, particularly the ATDC at Georgia Tech, you will see things that are very much in demand and in need all over the world. The only reason why they're not employing people, manufacturing something, selling their services all over the world is that venture capital is missing. And so this venture capital network, through Atlanta Economic Development Corporation, is the city's attempt to respond to one of the missing links in our growing economic development. I work as hard as anybody ever worked in trying to bring business from somewhere else here. The only thing about business that's coming from somewhere else, it can decide to pick up and go. But when you look at, say, a Hayes microcomputer, or an M&M Products with Stay Soft Fro. They started here, they're going to be here, just like Coca-Cola, for another 100 years. You look at Leland Strange and Intelligent Systems, they're going to be here. Those are Atlanta firms. They're people who have received their education in this city, they're dedicated to this city, and they're going to be involved in the economic and political and social development of this city. So when you invest in the ideas of people coming up in our city, we really and truly are doing the most solid and significant kind of economic development available. And so we're very pleased that Hattie Harlow and Walt Huntley have assembled a team of representatives from Arthur Young, Deloitte Haskins and Sells, Ernst & Winnie, C&S Bank, First Atlanta, Georgia State University Small Business Development Center, the Advanced Technology Development Center, and the Georgia Power Company, and we're going to innovate the realization of a venture capital network here in our city. And I'm really and truly glad to see this day come. As Walt said, we're talking about working with companies that need funding anywhere between $25,000 and $750,000. I think if you look at the return on venture capital, and if you look at the experience in regions comparable to this, you'll say that the new entrepreneurs the investors that get the best return on their dollar are those investors that find a way to plug in to the new intellectual technology growth of a particular region. We know with Bell South that purchases $3 billion worth of electronic equipment a year, that there are going to be new startup companies developing new technology to meet the needs that Bell South is going to find as they attempt to serve the communications needs of the Southeast. Those new companies with those new ideas, with a guaranteed market almost, are going to need a little venture capital just to get them from the idea to producing the product. That's what venture capital is designed to do. IBM's 55-story building is up there. They're basically a marketing operation, but it's not going to be long before new ideas feeding into IBM are going to be feeding in through Atlanta. And some of those ideas ought to come out of Atlanta University, Georgia State, and Georgia Tech. And they ought to have the venture capital necessary to help them make the transition. And who knows? Who knows what kind of business is out here waiting to be born and waiting to prosper? I'm sure that the candlers in their drugstore in the early days, if they had said they were going to be a company that's going to last 100 years, selling some kind of sweet soda water all over the world, people would have looked at them like they were crazy. But somebody took some venture capital and put it into Coca-Cola. And that's why we have a multinational company. And we have another dozen potential multinational companies in this city right now that with the needed support in 50 to 100 years, they can have an even greater impact on the world in which we live than Coca-Cola has had. And so we're celebrating a great occasion here, and I'd like to thank Walt Huntley, the president of AEDC, and Hattie Harlow for following this up and bringing this moment of implementation into being. Thank you very much. We'd like to proclaim this Mr. Patrice Anderson Day because on today, the city of Atlanta will honor an outstanding individual who saved the life of a small child from a pit bull. With the recent increase in vicious pit bull attacks on innocent bystanders, it's very timely and more appropriate that due recognition be given to a courageous young man who prevented a child from becoming another statistic. Patrice Anderson, 18, is a valued Atlanta citizen. His display of heroism has earned him the respect and admiration of the entire Atlanta community. We applaud Mr. Anderson for placing the well-being of another above his own personal safety. And on behalf of the people of Atlanta, I take great pride in proclaiming July 28th in our city as Mr. Patrice Anderson Day. Anderson. Let me sign this. And Councilman Maddox, congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll have a certificate and the proclamation. Okay? Very good. Thank you. You want to say a word? Sure.
I would like to thank Mayor Young and the City of Atlanta for this reward. And I would hope that as far as legislation is concerned, that they would ban these dogs from the city, period, from the state of Georgia. Thank you.
She has a question.
Well, at that time, I wasn't thinking like I could get bit. I was only thinking like well, that could be my little brother or my son that somebody saved. So, I mean, it had to be dead. So, you know, that's just the way I felt about it, that it was just something I wanted to do. I didn't want to see it happen. That was all.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations again. Thank you, Sue.
I would like to thank everyone for attending this morning, and I welcome you to this press briefing for the International Flower Show. I would especially like to thank Mr. Jerry Bartles of the Atlanta Chamber of Commerce and Ted Sprague of the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau for being here. I would also like to acknowledge Mr. Dan Sweat of the Central Atlanta Progress, who couldn't be here because of a previous commitment out of town. This coming spring, Semco Productions will produce the International Flower Show, the world's largest and most unique indoor flower show at the Georgia World Congress Center. Over 20 elaborate feature gardens, ranging from an exotic tropical rainforest to an elegant Japanese garden to the completely landscaped front and backyard of an actual home, as well as hundreds of smaller gardens, floral arrangements, specimen plants, flowers will be on display using over 300,000 square feet of exhibit space at the Congress Center. And now I'd like to introduce the Mayor of Atlanta, Mayor Andy Young.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Southern Exposition Management Company, Semco, for being among our best corporate citizens. What they're doing for Atlanta is providing flowers in one of the largest international flower shows to be held April 6th through 10th, 1988 at the World Congress Center. And they're going to decorate those 16 football fields there and show just what you can do with exotic tropical flowers from all over the world that will grow in this region. Then after they landscape the entire interior of the World Congress Center, those flowers and plants coming from all over the world will be donated to our city and will be used to beautify Central City Park, International Boulevard, up and down Peachtree, Piedmont Park, and we're going to have the flowers of the world growing and blooming in Atlanta from April 1988 right on into the future. They are also going to contribute horticulturists to our city to go along with our city's Department of Parks and Recreation, which already keeps our city pretty green. But when we add to the greenery, the natural greenery and beauty of Atlanta, the exotic tropical flowers from all over the world, we're going to see an explosion of color and vitality in this city that I think will make us the garden spot of the nation. And so we're very grateful to Semco for this idea, and we're urging the total support of this International Flower Show. We're very pleased also that C&S Bank is the first of the corporate sponsors that will be growing, and the public can begin to buy tickets for this International Flower Show already early in September. So we're looking for a flowery spring and a bright blooming summer right on through the convention. Randy Pike, you know anything about this? My wife ever sees me doing this, I'm ruined.
It's only your learning.